Hi, this is Rachel coming to you with this week's Sparkle of Shabbat. And this week I wanted to continue talking a little bit about the holiday of Purim, Chag Purim Sameach. Today is actually Purim, and I am having a joyful Purim, as you can probably tell from the grin on my face. Just returned from a beautiful Purim Suda, a Purim feast with dear Devorah and Shlomo Buxbaum. And I wanted to talk a little bit more about the concept of what is hidden. And one of the most important concepts, I think, of the Purim holiday and of reading the Megillah that we see or don't see, that my husband reminded me of last night, is that Hashem's name, the Almighty's name is never mentioned during the Megillah. And yet what we see during the miracles that happened during the Purim time, during the story, all the different steps that happened along the way, are that Hashem's hand was very much there, even though it wasn't mentioned. And that even though the miracles might not have been so visible to the eye like the 10 plagues or like our experience at Mount Sinai, that Hashem was very much involved in the story and orchestrating things behind the scenes to help us to survive and to defy Haman's decree and for us to emerge victorious. So Hashem was hidden, and yet he was there and ultimately really revealed. So I wanted to share an idea that really touched me this week that was brought down in the name of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and I've got my little cheat sheet here. But basically what he says is that we might see different people, when we see people dressed up in their Purim costume, we know that that's not who they really are because it's quite obvious that they're wearing a costume. But what about when people aren't wearing extraordinary dress? What about when they're just dressed normally? We might see that one person is impatient, or let's see what he says. One person is impatient, one person is angry, one person is apathetic, and I will quote here, "This is not who they really are. This is just a costume. Deep in their heart, they are all warm Jews, full of purity and beauty." I think that that is the most magnificent statement I've ever heard, that we are all warm Jews full of purity and beauty. We are created in the divine image. We all walk around with a spark of divine. All human beings have a spark of divine in each of us. And sometimes I think we forget, and we forget when looking at each other, that there is, that each of us is wearing a costume on any given day. And it might not be so obvious, but really everyone's wearing a costume. And I was sort of thinking, chuckling to myself, that we should all really wear shirts all around, every day that say, "I'm wearing a costume," or "I have a mask on," because sometimes our pure and beautiful and warm soul is covered and it's not so obvious. But we should assume when looking at each other that we are wearing a mask, and that underneath there is something incredibly precious. And if we're lucky, we get to have a glimpse of it when interacting with each other. And if we're lucky, we get to share that with each other when interacting. But that really a lot of us walk around sort of hidden and maybe more covered than we'd like to, similar to Hashem's hand in the Purim story. So my sparkle for this week would be, may we remember that there is hiddenness in each of us. May we be thankful for the Almighty, the miracles from the Almighty. Excuse me, I did have a glass of wine. But may we be thankful for those miracles of the Almighty's hidden hand. And may we also realize that there is a lot of hiddenness among each of us, and work to reveal that in ourselves and with each other. Shabbat Shalom, Chag Purim Sameach. Happy Purim.